call is now being recorded.
Okay, so once again, good morning. So today we will start with the next point of this particular chapter, that is work measurement. So in this particular chapter, we are going to discuss very important point related to the different techniques of the work measurement. Okay, so that we are going to discuss today. In the last lecture, we have started with this particular basic definition of the work measurement, that is how the work measurement plays very important role in order to increase the productivity. In addition to that, what is the basic difference between the method study and the work measurement, because these are the two concepts, that is method study and the work measurement, which are came from the concept of work study. Okay, the method study is used to eliminate the unnecessary operations where we are not calculating any time, but in order to calculate that particular time required for the each and every operation, this second technique is developed, which is called as a work measurement. So what is meant by the work measurement? It is the process, or it is the techniques which is used to determine the standard time required to perform the operation. This is the simple definition. So in the last lecture, we have discussed about the basic definitions. Then we have discussed about the all the types of application where this particular concept of work measurement is used in various types of the industry in order to measure the time required to perform that particular task and time required to perform that particular operation. Now, in the today's lecture, we will discuss about the different types of techniques. If I have to go for the measurement of time, for example, I am performing the number of operations on the lathe machine, I am performing the number of operations on the CNC machine, VMC machine. Sometimes my task is that I have to transport that particular one product from one location to the another location. That means here the movement of that particular worker is also taking place. But to transfer that particular product from one location to the another location, again some amount of time is required. So that time also I have to measure. I have to measure the time required to perform the operation. So like that, wherever we are doing the operation, wherever we are doing any type of task to that particular task, if I have to calculate the time at that time, these are the four techniques which are used for the work measurement. So here, these are the four techniques through which we can calculate the standard time to perform that particular operation. But while calculating the standard time, we are having the simple formula, that is standard time is equal to normal time plus allowance. Normal time means the time required to perform operation only. Means I am doing drilling, I am doing shaping operation, I am performing milling operation, fishing operation. That means when operator is actually working on that particular machine, that time is called as a normal time. Plus allowance. Allowance means in between that particular work. If I have to go for the drinking the water, if I have to go for some another work, or in between if I have to take the some amount of rest, or in between there is a breakage of the tool, if I have to change the coolant of the coolant of the machine, oil of the machine. So like that unavoidable works also we have to do. So for that purpose also some allowance is also provided. Therefore these are the four methods through which we can calculate the standard time required for performing the operation. In that, first one is called as a time study. So the time study is one of the basic procedure, or it is one of the first important method through which we can calculate the time required to perform the operation. So in this particular time study, the name itself suggests that. So time study, it is the concept in which we are using the different types of the time measuring instruments. Means maybe you have performed some of the experiments in our laboratory. Maybe you are performing some experiments in our FMFP lab, maybe in the metrology lab, maybe in the IC engine lab. So whenever we are performing the operations, or whenever we are taking the readings, so we are using the timing devices. Maybe we are using our mobile phones, maybe we are using that stopwatches. So whatever the measuring equipments are there, that measuring equipments are used in the first method. Therefore this method is called as a time study. So here the time study, in that we are calculating the time required, or we are calculating the standard time required to perform the operation. But here in case of a time study, we are using the qualified worker, the person who is capable, or the person who is having the experience related to the time measurement. Sometimes what happen, some unskilled operators are operating the machines. Let's take example of lathe machine once again. Some unskilled operators are operating that particular machine. That persons have only idea about convert the raw material into the finished good. That means initially he is performing fishing operation, then afterwards he is performing the turning operation, then he is performing some another threading operation, gluing operation, champering operation. That unskilled operator is having idea only to perform the operation, but that unskilled operator is unable to measure the time required to each and every operation. So in such cases, another qualified person is provided near to that particular lathe machines. Once that unskilled operator will start machine, if he will start any operation, the another person which is called as a qualified worker, he is having idea related to how to measure the time for each and every operation. So once the unskilled operator is starting his job, at that time the skilled operator is present near to that particular lathe machine, and whenever unskilled operator is starting its operation, initially he is performing facing, then turning, then threading, then growing, then champering, like that. As per the sequence of operation, whatever the another person is provided, that second person will measure the time required to perform each and every operations. Therefore, in case of a time study, the qualified worker or the skilled operator is required in order to measure the time. Because if I have to measure the time, the full concentration is required. Because once your operation is started, you have to start your stopwatch. One operation is completed, you have to stop your stopwatch. That means fully concentrations we have to give on that particular operation. Then and then only we can measure the time required to perform that particular operation. Therefore, in case of a time study concept, whenever I have to go for the time measurements, at that time the skilled operator, qualified worker should be provided, so he can measure the accurate time to perform that particular operation. In addition to that, in case of a time study concept or in this particular first techniques, we are using the different types of the equipments. Maybe we are using some mechanical devices, maybe we are using some electronic devices in order to measure the time. So maybe we are using some mechanical operated stopwatches, maybe we can use some standard digital type of stopwatch. That means in time study concept we are using the time study equipments in the form of stopwatch to measure that particular time. Then second important method is called as a work sampling. So what is mean by the work sampling? So work sampling is one of the second process which is used in the industry, in which we are calculating. The work sampling is one of the process in which we are making the instantaneous observations are to be taking place. So that means repetitively we have to go for the observation, because whenever, if you take the example, once the industry started and in the morning, so in the morning all the machines are going to start, the operators are coming, they are starting their respective machines, they are starting their operations. At that time in the morning, what happened, the another engineer, what is your higher authority is there, maybe supervisor is there, or maybe that production engineer is there, he is visited to that particular industry. That means he is taking the rounds in the morning, he is taking the rounds, and he has observed that the 90% machines are working, 90% machines are already started, remaining 10% machines are ideal condition. Maybe some another reason is there, or the operator is not coming, or that machine is under the maintenance. So like that, so many reasons are there. But through this particular round in the morning session, it has been observed that the 90% machines are already started, means they are working, operators are working on that particular machine, but remaining 10% machines are ideal. Maybe due to some another reasons, the machine is under maintenance, the operators are not coming in time, some tool breakage is taking place. So that 10% machines will be considered in the ideal condition. So again in the afternoon session, if again that engineer is come, again he will do the observations. That means continuously he is doing the observations. Again it has been observed that again the 90% machines are started, remaining 10% machines are ideal. Similarly, at the evening, in the evening session, again that engineer is coming, that supervisor is coming, again he is observing that particular machines, whether the machines are working or not. Again he has observed that near about 85 to 90% machines are again working, and 10% machines are ideal. That means the work sampling is one of the process in which we are taking the instantaneous observations over a period of time. Only we have to take the observation. In time study, we are measuring the actual time by using the timing devices. But in case of a work sampling process, that engineer, that supervisor continuously taking the rounds in your production departments in order to check how much percentage machines are working and how much percentage machines are ideal. And it has been observed that in the morning session, in the afternoon session, and in the evening session, that is 90% machines are working and remaining 10 to 5% machines are ideal due to some unavoidable regions. That means the work sampling is one of the process in which the instantaneous observations are taken over a period of time. So due to that particular such types of the observations, that operators, that workers, they can aware about that the engineer or that supervisor is continuously taking the rounds. Therefore, we have to work on that particular machine continuously, or we have to complete your task as per given period of time. Because sometimes the one machine is assigned to that particular worker, and that supervisor told you have to complete this particular job within 2 hours. So what is the requirement of the operator? He has to complete that particular task within 2 hours only, and in between that workers or that supervisors are taking the rounds continuously, whether that operators are working in the proper manner or not, or whether he is taking the break again and again. So in order to avoid that particular situation, this work sampling process is one of the second techniques of the work measurement, in which only I have to go for the instantaneous observation. Continuously I have to take the rounds in the industry, through which I can easily say that how much percentage of machines are working and how much percentage of machines are ideal. I have to take the 3 rounds in the morning session, in the afternoon session, in the evening sessions, through which I can go for the observation related to this. So this is about the work sampling process. Then third one is called as a predetermined motion time system. In short, it is called as a PMTS. P means predetermined, M means motion, T means time, and S means system. In short, we can call it as a PMTS. So predetermined motion time study. This is one of the third techniques which is used in the industry, in which here we are measuring or we are calculating the motion of each and every worker. By using the time study concept, we are measuring the time required to perform the operation where the machine is stationary, operator is also stationary. In time study, we are measuring the time where machine is stationary, operator is stationary. But some of the tasks or some of the processes are there in which that operator, worker, supervisor has to travel some distance from one location to the another location, or from one machine to the another machine. So whatever that particular motions are taking place from one location to the another location, to that particular motion or to that particular moment, how much amount of time is required. Sometimes the worker has to travel the maximum distance from one machine to the another machine. So due to that process, what happen? Your production cost is increases because that worker has to travel the maximum distance from one machine to the another machine. So before starting your machine, we have to determine that particular motion, or we have to determine the time required to travel that particular distance from one machine to the another machine. For example, at one location the lathe machine is located, and by some distance the drilling machine is located. So that operator has to use both the machines. That means once he is complete their total job on the lathe machine, then that operator has to take that particular job from the lathe machine and he has to move towards the drilling machine for the drilling operations. But if that lathe machine and the drilling machines are provided at some distances, so that much distance that operator has to travel, that time also we have to consider in your total production time, because drilling operation mostly it is not possible by using the lathe machines, so we have to use the drilling machine only. So at that time we have to take that particular job from the lathe machine and we have to hold that particular job on the drilling machine, and then we have to start the operation. But if that operator has to travel the maximum distance, then again your production time is goes on increasing. Therefore this third technique is implemented in the work measurement, where it is called as a predetermined motion time study. Means before starting that particular work, we have to find how much amount of time is required to travel from one location to the another location, or from one machine to the another machine. If the traveling distance is more, then what we have to do? We have to provide that particular drilling machine near to the lathe machine only, so we can go for the modification in the workstation. So that's why before starting your job, before starting your work, this predetermined motion time study, that means before your work we have to calculate the time required to complete that particular task, and then we will start your work. I can take the simple example. If you take the example, if you have to travel from Pandharpur to Solapur, maybe you are traveling with your personal bike, or maybe you are traveling with the four-wheeler vehicles. But before traveling, what we are thinking, now this is the 10 a.m. and I have to reach into the Solapur near about 11 a.m. or 11:30 a.m. That means before traveling you are making the planning, that is within 1 hour or within 1 hour and 30 minutes I have to reach into the Solapur. Means we have not started the traveling. Only you are thinking that I have to reach into the Solapur within 1 hour. Similarly, in the industry, whenever we are starting the machine, before starting that particular machine, before starting your task, you have to determine the time required to perform your job. Means if you have to complete your job in the 2 hours, you are thinking I have to complete that particular job within 2 hours or less than 2 hours. So such types of the times are calculated by using the predetermined motion time study. In time study, we are measuring the time when your operation is going on. In time study, we are measuring the time where your operation is going on. But in case of a predetermined motion time study, here before starting your job, before starting your machine, before starting your operation, we are calculating the rough time to complete that particular task. So this is the predetermined. Therefore, the name itself suggests that predetermined motion. Before starting your motion, we are measuring the time. Therefore, it is called as a PMTS, predetermined motion time study. And the fourth one is called as a standard data method. So this is the very simple techniques. Whatever the previous results, whatever the standard time already we have calculated, because we know if I have to travel from Pandharpur to Solapur, I know within 1 hour and 30 minutes I can reach into the Solapur. That means I can use the previous data, because as per the road conditions, as per the bike is available with you, as per the four-wheeler available with you, within 1 hour and 30 minutes I can reach into the Solapur. That means standard time is already available with you. That standard time I am taking for my further operation parts. That means here I am using the standard data. Within 1 hour I can reach into the Solapur. I know, means I am using the standard data, because in the previous, in last week or in last month, already you came from the Solapur. Therefore, the standard data is available with you. So this is the standard data method, where we are using already data available, already time available, and based on it we are performing the operation. Okay, so these are the four methods where it is implemented for the work measurement. Now we will start with the first method, that is the time study. So here you can see the time study is the most versatile and most widely used techniques for the work measurement. Mostly it is used in the industries, and it is mostly widely used techniques for the work measurement. It is used to estimate the time to allow for the qualified and the trained workers. This is the requirement of the time study, where the time can be measured by using the qualified and the trained workers only. Okay, so this is the requirement of the time study. Then this technique is based on measuring the work content by the prescribed method with the allowances for the fatigue and the personal and the unavoidable delays. So whenever we are measuring the time by using the time study concepts, we have to measure the time by using the prescribed method. Means whatever the time I am calculating, that time should be including all the types of allowances. For example, first one is a fatigue. While performing the operation, if there is a pain in your brain, if there is a pain in your hand, at that time you have to stop that particular machine. You have to take the rest for 5 to 10 minutes, and then we can start. So if such types of the fatigues are taking place whenever we are operating on that particular machine, such types of the fatigue allowance should be provided in your standard time. Then personal allowance, if you have to go for the drinking the water, if you have to go for the washrooms, so at that time this personal allowance, that means time required for drinking the water, it is also considered in the standard time. And unavoidable delays, maybe during working condition, if your tool is get break, if your product is get break, if the machine is under the maintenance, maybe your coolant is finished, your oil is finished, at that time you have to change that particular coolant, you have to change that particular oil, you have to change that particular tool. So for such unavoidable delays also, the timing is to be provided. That means including normal time, the time required for that particular allowance is also to be provided. That's why I have given the example. If you have to complete your job in 1 hour, so in that particular total 1 hour, 45 minutes are for the normal time, and remaining 50 minutes are your allowance. That means you can complete your job in 1 hour, but in that particular 1 hour, the total normal time is only 45 minutes. That means you have to do the operations only for the 45 minutes, but that extra 50 minutes are given as a allowance. That means in that particular extra 50 minutes, you can take the rest for 5 to 10 minutes. You can go for the drinking the water. Within 5 minutes, we can change the coolant, we can change the oil, we can change the breaker tools. So that extra 50 minutes are also added in your standard time if any disturbances are coming during the operation. That means only for the 45 minutes you have to do your operation, but remaining 50 minutes are additional given to you if we are facing any problems whenever we are performing the operation. Therefore, in case of a time study concept, it's the time should be measured by considering all the types of allowances in the form of fatigue allowance, in the form of personal allowance, and in the form of unavoidable delays. So this is called as a time study concept. Now here there is one standard procedure. If I have to implement this particular time study concept in your industry, so we have to follow the standard procedure. In that, what is the step number one? Selection of job for the time study. So I have to select that particular job for which I have to go for the measurement of time. For example, if you take the example of once again lathe machine, now maybe in your third year, one rod will be given to you at the start of the semester. Okay, and as per your practical, we are performing or we are using that particular lathe machines, and you are converting your raw material into the finished goods. At that time, we are doing the so many operations. Maybe you are doing the piecing operation, then turning operation, then threading operation, then grooving operation, then at the end you are doing the champering operations. So like that, so many operations are doing. That means before doing that particular operation, what is our requirement? We have to select the job. Maybe one drawing is given to you and one solid rod is given to you. That means on that particular job, I have to start my operation. So the first method or the first procedure is that selection of job for the time study. We have to select that particular job first, and then only we have to go for the time measurement. So in that, there are so many other steps are given. That is new job or new activity we have to select. As operation appears to be bottlenecks, so we have to decide that particular sequence of the operations. It is not possible initially direct start with the threading operation, so we have to set the proper sequence of the operation. Initially piecing, then another turning, then we can go for the threading, then grooving, then champering. Like that we have to set the sequence of operation. Need of standard time to introduce the incentive scheme. So here we have to calculate the standard time. That means why we have to go for the standard time calculations, through which we can provide some incentive scheme, because sometimes the workers can complete his or her job within time. 1 hour is given to him and he can complete the job within 45 minutes. Means for such types of the workers there should be some incentive schemes. Then change in the material or method of working to set a new method. If the material is going to change, working method is also going to change. At that time we have to set the new method also. So if your material is different, your method of working is to be different. At that time, for that particular manufacturing, we have to select the new method to convert that particular raw material into the finished goods. And complaint from the workers about set the standard time for an operation. Sometimes as per the feasibility, because workers are the skilled operators, some of the skilled operators are there. By observing the number of operations, they can easily say that this job is not possible to complete within 1 hour. So for that particular job, 1 hour and 30 minutes are to be required. So at that time, we have to think about that particular that, and you can change that particular time required to perform that particular operation. So the first procedure in which we have to select that job, we have to select that operation where we have to go for the time study or we have to go for the time measurement. So this is the first procedure. Then second is called as a selection of job. So same I am continuing selection of job for the time study. Again, some these are the different types of the component, that is excessive idle time of machine or extremely low output of the machine. So whenever job we are selecting, so at that time excessive idle time means where the machines are totally stationary. Means if I have to change the coolant, if I have to change the oil, if I will stop that particular machine for some another words, at that time your machine is ideal. So how much amount of ideal time is required, that also we have to define. Sometimes due to some unnecessary operation the idle times are to be coming, but sometimes unevenly the operator is stop that particular machine and he is taking the rest for continuous 10 to 15 minutes. At that time, excessive idle time is to be taking place. At that time, we have to calculate that particular excessive idle time also. Then second, compare the efficiency of two methods. Sometimes one job can be manufactured by using the two methods. That is method number one. By using the method number one, we can manufacture the same job. By using the method number two also, we can manufacture the same job. But we have to compare that particular methods, and through that particular comparison, we have to compare their efficiency. Out of the two methods, which method is more efficient to that particular worker? So through this particular method, he or she can complete that particular job within given time. Therefore, we have to go for the comparison of the efficiency. Make some preliminary investigation to carry out the method study. Preliminary investigation before starting your job, before starting your work, just we have to discuss with your supervisor. Maybe I will perform this particular operation first, I will perform this particular operation second time up, I will perform this as a third operation. That means preliminary investigation, we have to carry out that particular job so we can complete your task within time. If you are starting your operation by some faulty operations or maybe some last operations, at that time, at the end, you are facing the problem to complete your job. Therefore, before starting your job, you have to discuss with your supervisor, you have to take the permission from that particular supervisor that I will start this particular job by using this particular operation, so we can save the time to complete that particular job. So like that, preliminary observations we have to carry out, and then we have to start your job. Then excessive cost of the particle job, the cost factor is plays very important role, because whenever your total production time is required, automatically if your total production time is increases, at that time the cost of that particular product is also goes on increasing. So at that time, the cost factor, whatever the excessive cost is taking place, that excessive cost also we have to think in this particular step number 1 and 2. So this is the first step, that is selection of job. Then selection of worker for the time study. Already I have discussed which types of workers should be provided, that is skilled operator or the trained operator we have to provide in order to measure that particular time. Sometimes what happen, as per the requirement of the machine, the skilled operator is operating that particular machine, but whenever he is operating, he is unable to give the concentration on the time measurement. If you take the example of you, whenever we are starting your job on the lathe machines, at the start we can start the stopwatch, but whenever your operation is finished, at that time sometimes we are unable to stop that particular stopwatch because you are busy to perform that particular operation. You are having knowledge about how to measure the time, but due to the continuous operations you are busy to perform that particular operation. At that time it is not possible to measure the time. So at that time, what is the requirement? Another second person should be provided along with you, so that second person can measure the time and you can perform only operation. Means initially, if you are doing the fishing operation, stopwatch will get started by the second person. If your fishing operation will be finished, another person, second person will stop the stopwatch and he can measure the time. Within 5 minutes you can perform your fishing operation. Then you are starting your second operation as a turning. Whenever turning operation will be start, the second person will start the stopwatch. Okay, once your turning operation will be finished, then that second person will stop the stopwatch and he can tell me the time, that is 10 minutes are required to perform the turning operation. Therefore, whenever we have to go for the time measurement by using the time study concepts, at that time the skilled operator or the trained operator should be provided. If that operator itself capable to perform the operation and to measure the time simultaneously, if that operator is capable to perform the operation and to measure the time simultaneously, so we can assign that particular both task to that particular operator or the worker. But sometimes due to some heavy operation, due to some small operations, if it is not possible to do the operations and measure the time simultaneously, at that time along with that particular operator we have to provide the second person for the time measurement only. So this is the requirement of the time study. Okay, so in case of a time study, for those who are doing the time measuring, so that particular person, that particular operator should have some skill related to the time measurement. So for that purpose, selection of worker for the work study, it also one of the important procedure, or it is one of the important step. Then qualities of the worker. So which types of the qualities we have, it should be there in that particular worker. So first one, have a necessary skill of that particular job. The person who is performing the operation and the person who is measuring that particular time, that particular person is having some skill about that particular job. This job is used for which application, how many number of operations we have to perform on that particular job, all the necessary skill that operator has to having. Have a sufficient experience with the given method on the job. That particular person having some experience with the given method. So maybe if you are operating the CNC machine, if you are operating on that particular CNC machine, which method you are using to convert your raw material into the finished goods? Related to that method, that person is having some amount of skill. So he can implement their own skill. He can use his experience or her experience. So your job can be complete within time. Okay. Then be an average worker as regards the speed of working. Sometimes the speed of working should not be less as per the requirement, and the speed of the working should not be more, because sometimes if your working speed is very less, your job can take the maximum time to complete it. If your working speed is too high, so that extra speed or maximum speed will be affects on the, it will be affects on the finishing of that particular job. Sometimes if you are working with very high speed, we are working with high speed, you are completing your job within time, but whatever the surface finish you will get, it should not be as per our requirement. So you have to maintain the average speed, so you can complete your job within time and you can maintain the proper surface finish of that particular job. So this is the requirement. Then be temporarily suited for the study. So whatever the person is assigned, it should be suited, it should be suitable to that particular works. So whatever the task is assigned, so he is having the confidence that is I can complete that particular job. So like that situation should be there. Then have a knowledge about the purpose of the work study. That particular person who is operating on that particular machine, or those who are operating on that particular job, it is having some amount of knowledge, that is why we are performing this particular operation, why we are manufacturing this particular job. That means application related to that particular study or related to that particular job is having some amount of knowledge related to the purpose of that particular study. If that particular person is aware about this particular 5 points, so he can easily measure the time required to perform that particular operation, or the time required to convert your raw material into the finished goods. So these are the different types of the qualities in the worker who is measuring the time. Then time study equipments. So which equipments we are using for the time study? So first one is the timing devices. Maybe we are using the stopwatch. That stopwatch may be electrically operated, or the stopwatch may be mechanical operated. Whenever you are taking the reading in our laboratory, maybe in the HMT lab is there, some another FMAP lab is there, IC engine lab is there, EMP lab is there. At that time we are taking the readings. At that time we are using the different types of the stopwatches. Sometimes we are using the stopwatch which is provided in our mobile also. So that is digital stopwatch. So we have to use the different types of stopwatches. It may be mechanical operated, it may be electrically operated. So timing devices, this is the first equipment. Second, time study observation sheet. Time study observation sheet. So such types of the time study observation sheets are provided in the production department. So when you are performing the facing operation, immediately you can write down the facing on that particular sheet and how much time is required. 5 minutes are required. Then second operation, turning, you can write, you can perform your turning operation. Then turning, in front of that you can write down the 10 minutes. Then you are performing the threading operation. For the threading operation, how much time is required? 15 minutes. So immediately you can write down the name of the operation and the time required of that particular operation on that particular sheet. Therefore, this time study observation sheet, where you are writing the time, name of operation and the time required to perform that particular operation. Therefore, this is also one of the important equipment in order to measure, or in order to write down the time required for the each and every operation. Then third one is called as a time study observation board. So such types of the boards are provided in the production departments. So sometimes what happen, you are operating the machines, you are writing the operation time on that particular boards. Sometimes your supervisor is coming, he is observing your operation and he is also writing. So for example, the time required to perform the turning operation, it has been observed at 5 minutes. Then the supervisor is coming, he is observing your job, he is observing your turning operation, and he is also checking whether you are performing your turning operation in 5 minutes or not. If he has observed that you can perform the turning operation in front of your reading, that supervisor also write 5 minutes are required. You are also writing the 5 minutes for the turning operation. Then your supervisor, your engineer is also coming near to your machine. He is also observing that particular time required for the turning operation. And after the observation, he can also check that whether 5 minutes are required or not. So such types of the time study board are basically provided in the production department, because in the production departments only maximum this time study concept is implemented, where we have to go for the time measurement. And the fourth one is called as a other equipments, like we are using the pencil, eraser, devices like tachometer. You know the tachometer, it is used for the speed measurement. Tachometer is used for the speed measurement. So whenever I have to measure the time of the that speed of any rotating element, so at that time the stopwatch is not useful. So at that time we have to use the tachometer. That tachometer may be contact type or the non-contact type. So as per the requirement, some another equipments are also there in order to measure the time, or the tachometer in the sense we have to measure the speed, or we have to measure the RPM of that particular rotating machine. So these are the different types of the time study equipments, maybe timing devices in which we are using the stopwatches. Then time study observation board, where we are writing the operation, number of operations, their time. Then another time study sheet, time study board. So printed sheet will be given to you whenever you are starting your job. One printed sheet will be given to you. In that, the sequence of operation is also given. Operation number 1, turning; 2, facing; 3, again threading; 4th, growing; 5th, champering. Like that sequence of operation is already mentioned on that particular sheet. Only you have to write down the time required for the each and every operation. So like that, time study observation sheet and the boards, they are mostly provided in the production department. Okay, then timing devices, just now I have explained the stopwatch, which is widely used in various types of the industries. In our day-to-day applications also, we are using the stopwatch of our mobile phone. Only you have to start the button, the stopwatch will get start. If you complete your job, you have to stop the second button, you will get the time required for that particular operation. Again, some another electronic timers are there. So many devices are there through which we can measure the time. So here I have given the example. Electronic timer can measure the time accurately to the third decimal of the second and keep the large volume of time data in the memory. So some of the electronic devices are there which are really highly sensitive instruments are there. By using the stopwatch, there are so many errors are taking place, because that stopwatch are to be handled by that particular operator only. So sometimes there are so many manual errors are there, so many instrument errors are there. But whatever the electronics devices are there, they are very accurate devices. They can measure the time very accurately. So if you have to measure the time in the decimals, point, like that, so many points are there. So at that time, you can measure that particular time by using the electronic devices, and you can save that particular time. So whatever the memory is there to that particular electronic devices, that memory should be also provided. So large amount of data, it can be stored in that particular electronic devices. So this is about the timing devices. Then this is the simple examples of the stopwatch. So you have observed this particular stopwatch in maybe in our workshop also, so which are used for the time measuring. Some stopwatches are already attached to that particular machine. So once you are starting your operation, you can start your stopwatch. Once your operation is over, you can stop your operation. So permanently that particular stopwatch is attached to that particular respective machine. So these are the different types of the stopwatches. Then these are some timing devices. When you have to start that particular operation, so here start and stop button is to be provided. When you have to, if you have started the job, you can start that particular button, the readings are displayed on this particular display devices. Once you have to stop your job, you can stop your job, and again you can stop this particular same button, so you will get the accurate reading in this particular digital type of timing devices. So previous, here it is available in the form of pointer and one circular scale is provided, and here by using that this stopwatches, there may be some manual errors are there, instrumental errors are there, but this second figure in which the digital stopwatch is there, so we can give the, it will give the accurate reading. So again, these are some timing devices in the form of cameras, so we can observe the total operation. You can observe the total operation by using this particular timing devices. So you can focus by using, there are different types of the lenses are provided. We can observe that particular operation through this particular camera type of device, and simultaneously once your operation is started, you have to start this particular machine. You can observe that particular total operation from this particular camera. Once your operation is finished, we can stop this particular machine, you can stop this particular button, so you will get the accurate reading along with the proper recording of that particular operation. Means you simply you have to take the video when you are performing any operations. If I will start the video, along with that particular recording, you will get the time also, because at the bottom side, if you taking the video maybe in your mobile phone, so once you start the video, at the bottom side the timing is also there. Once you stop the video, you will get the recorded video along with timing. So such types of the timing devices are also to be used in order to measure the time required to perform the operations. Then these are the some another timing devices, so which are these are the some old timing devices which are to be, which is to be electric motor operated time recorder. Electric motor operated time recorder. Once your operation is started, automatically the output, the whatever the machine rotating elements are there, these are connected to this particular device. That means this device is also going to start rotate. Once your machine is stopped, the device is also going to stop. So it is totally operated by using the electronic motors. Then I have given the example of time study sheet. So this is the time study sheet which is given to you. So here the name of department is mentioned. Okay. Then the operation, which operations you are performing. Then machine, name of machine you have to write. Which tools you are using for the measurements. Then study number. This sheet number we have to give. Time off, time on. Whenever you are starting your machine, you have to write down the on time. Whenever you are stopping your machine, you have to write down the off time. Then some date of that particular operation. Who is going to check? Your supervisor is going to check. Name of that particular supervisor. Name of the operator also you have to write on this particular time study sheet. Which material you are using to perform the job. That name of the material also we are going to write. And at the bottom side there is some blank space is given. So here you can write down so different types of the operations. So from the top you can write down the turning, facing, drilling, threading, milling, shaping, champering, like that you can write down the sequence of operations, and in front of that you can write down the time required for the each and every operation. So such types of the printed sheets, time study sheets, are provided to the each and every machine, and once the operator will complete that particular task, he can write down the operation name. In front of that he can write down the operation time. Similarly, that process is continuously going on. Still, your total raw material is converted into the finished goods. So whenever you are visiting to any types of industries, so near to that particular machine, one board is provided, and on that particular boards, such types of the sheets are attached. So through this particular sheets, we can measure the time required for the each and every operation. So this is one of the important equipment. It is not an equipment, but it is one of the type of sheet which is provided to the each and every machine, so we can measure the time required for the each and every operation. And at the end, we can do the calculations how much amount of time is required for in between operation. If the worker has to take the rest, if he has to drinking, if he has to go for drinking the water, so he can write down the allowance for drinking the water 5 minutes. If the tool breakage is taking place, so he can write down maintenance, how much time is required, 15 minutes. So like that you can maintain all the important times on this particular sheets, and at the end you can measure how much amount of time is required to perform the operation and how much amount of time is required for drinking the water, taking the rest, changing the coolant, changing the oil. So like that all the times it can be maintained by using this particular time study sheet. Then this is the blank sheet in which no data is provided. Then this is the filled sheet. So here you can see the number of operations are provided, and this is the region. So wherever the small digits are there, in which the time required for the each and every operation again and again, whatever the number of allowances are there, these are to be recorded. And at the bottom side, you can see here the figure of that particular job is given. So what is your output, that is also represented at the bottom side. So this first figure is applicable for the blank sheet, where it is not to be filled. Once you are performing your operation, the total data is filled, and after the filling you will get such types of the sheets, and you can observe or you can use this particular sheet for your further calculation of the standard time. Okay, so this is of the time study sheet. So that time study sheet includes, so here it is the printed form which space provided for noting down the necessary information. I have given the example. Some blank space are to be provided. In that particular blank place, you can fill your information. What are the important parameters? That is, first one is a name of operations. Which operations we have to perform, that we can write. Drawing number, which drawing is to be provided to you. Name of the operator or name of the worker, that also we have to write on this particular sheet. Then name of the time study person. If the two persons are assigned, one is for performing the operation and another is for measuring the time only. So name of the worker and name of the time study person should be provided on that particular time study sheet. Date and place. On which date you are measuring the time. Place where you are measuring. Either you are measuring at the production department, design department, or some another department. The place is also we have to write on that particular time study sheet. So these are the basic required data which we have to fill on that particular time study sheet. Again, these are the some space are also provided in the form of writing the detailed description of the elements or the process. If you have to give the descriptive data, so the special space should be provided on that particular sheet, so we can provide the detailed data on that particular sheet. Then reading time or stopwatch reading for each element of the process. So recorded time or the stopwatch readings. So this is in front of operation. If I have to measure if I have to write down the time, the in front of that particular name of the operation, the space should be provided. So we can write the recorded time of 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hour. So like that, in order to write down that particular time, the space should be provided. Performance rating of the operator. So another space should be provided in order to check the performance rating of that particular operator. The operator who is performing that particular job, the operator who is measuring that particular time, the separate space should be provided in order to check the performance rating, because two machines are there. Lathe machine number 1, lathe machine number 2. On lathe machine 1, same job is doing. On lathe machine 2, same job is doing. But at the end, if the person who is working on the lathe machine number 1, he is completing his job in 1 hour, and the second operator, that is second machine, he is performing or he is completing their job in 1 hour and 30 minutes. That means the first operator, he is completing his job in 1 hour only, and second operator is completing his job in 1 hour and 30 minutes. That means he is taking the 30 minutes extra. So that means the second operator is not worked in the effective manners. So that means you have to give the less rating to the second operator, and we have to give the good rating to the first operator. So in order to represent the performance rating of that particular operator, the separate space should be provided. And last one is the competition. If I have to go for the comparison of all the types of sheets, number of sheets are available, and at the end, if I have to go for the competition or if I have to go for the comparison, the separate sheet should be provided in order to write down the final data. So this is about the requirement of the time study sheet. Then this is the time study board. Time study board means, you can see, it is the board on which the time study sheet is to be attached, and near to that particular time study sheet, the stopwatch is also provided. जिथं टाइम स्टडी बोर्ड दिलेला आहे त्या ठिकाणी आपण टाइम स्टडी शीट पण अटॅच करू शकतो, आणि त्याला अटॅच एक स्टॉपवॉच पण दिलेला आहे. So this particular construction is called as a time study board, on which you can attach your time study sheet properly, and near to that particular time study sheet or to that particular board only, you can attach this particular stopwatch. So this is the basic construction of the time study board, which includes the time study sheet also, and for time measuring purpose, this stopwatch is also provided. This is also again the second example of the time study board, where the sheet is to be attached, and to this particular board the stopwatch is also to be provided. So this is the basic example of the time study board. Then generally it is lightweight board. Maybe, yeah, you can take the example of our college. Maybe the different types of the notice boards are there. So on that particular notice boards, so different types of the important notice timetables are to be provided. The time study board is also having similar construction, on which it is a lightweight board, on which you can attach the time study sheet and the stopwatch. Your time study sheet and the stopwatch should be provided near to the each other, so we can maintain, or you can write down your time immediately on that particular sheet, and immediately you can start your stopwatch. Therefore the observation sheet and the stopwatch, it should be provided near to the each other. It is of size slightly larger than the observation sheet. So if you take here, you have to attach that particular sheet on this particular board. Therefore the size of this particular time study board is maximum as compared to the sheet. Therefore we can attach that particular sheet properly, and you can write down all the necessary information in the effective manner. Generally watch is mounted near to the upper side hand corner of the board. So whatever the stopwatch is to be provided, it is provided at the top corner. Here you can see the stopwatch is provided at the top corner. So easily you can start that particular stopwatch, easily we can stop that particular stopwatch, and immediately you can write the recorded time which is coming from that particular stopwatch. So like that construction is defined, or it is made for that particular time study board. The board has clamp to hold the observation sheet. If you take the example of pad, maybe in your 10th examination, 9th examination, we are using the pad whenever we are giving the examination. Same construction is there. So here one clamp is provided to attach that particular sheet. So in that particular clamp, you can attach your observation sheet, and easily you can write all the necessary information. If the clamp is not provided, your paper or your sheet continuously moves from the top side to bottom side, from left side to right side. So in order to avoid that particular movements, this clamp is provided, so we can attach your sheet in the proper way, and continuously you can maintain that particular sheet as per the requirement. So this is the time study requirement. And these are the some another remaining procedures are there that already we have discussed. That is record the details. So whatever the devices we are using, maybe we are using the stopwatch, we are using the time study sheets. So in case of a time study process, this is the procedure number 4. By using the timing devices, we have to record all the details. Then 5th number is called as a breaking the job into number of elements. Means whatever the task we are performing, we have to divide that particular task into the number of elements, or in the form of number of operations. Maybe initially I'm performing turning operation, then facing operation, then threading operation, then gluing operation, then chamfering operation. That means your total work we have to divide into the number of operations. Then we have to go for the time measurement. Means I'm calculating the time for turning, I'm calculating the time for facing, then I'm calculating the time for the drilling operation, then I'm calculating time for separate time for the each one operation. Means breaking the job into number of elements or the number of operations. Then measure the duration of each element. Once the operation or your task is divided into the number of elements, number of operations, after that we have to measure the time required for each and every operation. That means for turning operation separate time, for facing operation separate time, for drilling, for threading, for gluing operation, for shaping operation. Whatever the number of operations we are performing on that particular job, for each and every operation we have to measure the time, and that time can be measured by using the timing devices in the form of stopwatch or by using that particular sheet. Then calculate the relaxation and the other allowances. I have given the example. You have to complete your job in 1 hour, but you can complete your job in 45 minutes. Extra 15 minutes are given for drinking the water, for changing the tool, for changing the coolant, for changing the oil. That means we have to calculate relaxation and other allowance. Means how much amount of time is required for drinking the water, how much amount of time is required to change the coolant, how much amount of time is required to change the oil, how much amount of time is required to change your breaker tool. So all the such types of the allowances also we have to calculate. That's why I have the given example. You have to complete your job in hour, but you have to complete your job in 1 hour, but that total standard 1 hour means your normal time plus allowance. That means you can complete your job in 45 minutes, but extra 15 minutes are given as a allowance. In that particular 15 minutes, we can go for the drinking the water. In that particular 15 minutes, we can change your tool. In that particular 15 minutes, you can change your coolant. You can change the oil. So that extra 50 minutes should be provided. That extra 15 minutes should be provided. In that 15 minutes you can take the rest, you can change the tool, you can change the oil. So the standard time should be provided by considering all the times of allowances. But before that, you have to check how much time is required for drinking the water. 5 minutes. How much time is required for changing the tool? 10 minutes. How much time is required for changing the coolant? 10 minutes. That means 10 plus 10 plus 5, that means 25 minutes allowance should be provided along with your standard operation time. So this is the seventh steps in which we have to calculate the relaxations and the other allowances, and at the end you have to calculate the standard time. So we are having the formula for the standard time is equal to normal time plus allowance. Normal time means time required to perform operation only. Operation in the sense drilling, facing, threading, champering. These are the operations. Means time required to perform that operation is called as a normal time plus allowance. हे operation करताना, while doing that particular operations, if I have to change the tool, if I have to change the coolant, if I have to change the oil, if I have to go for the drinking of the water, so such types of the situations are arises. So that will be considered in the different types of the allowances. Therefore, whenever we are calculating the standard time, it should be calculated by considering the normal time along with allowance. So therefore, we are having the formula. Calculate the standard time is equal to normal time plus different types of allowances. Normal time means time required to perform the operations, and allowance means the time required to complete your necessary actions in the form of drinking the water, changing the oil, changing the tool, changing the coolant, like that. So this is the procedure through which we can implement the concept of time study in the industry for the measurement of time. Okay, so this is the first method we have discussed today, in which we have discussed the basic definition of the time study. What is the necessary of job? What is the necessary of worker? Which types of skill should be available to that particular worker? Then which types of timing devices we are using? That is, we are using the stopwatches. It may be mechanical operated, electrically operated. Then what is the use of the time study sheet? What is the use of time study board? Rather than this, which records we have to do? We have to divide your job into the number of elements. Then we have to go for the calculation of time for the each and every element. Then we have to calculate the time required for the different types of the allowances. And at the end, we can calculate the standard time required to perform your operation, which is equal to normal time plus allowances. Okay, so this is the detailed procedure related to the time study concept, which is the first techniques of the work measurement. Okay, so with this, today we will stop here. Remaining techniques we will discuss in the next lecture.